What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Washington Brawl Podcast. I am your host, Parker Hamlet, joined by my co-host and everybody's favorite Hokie, Chris Fowler. We talk the good, the bad, and of course the often ugly about the Washington football team for the Brawl Network, but we also got some exciting stuff going on, like the sick new merchandise. Chris, tell the people about it.
Yeah, man, so we got some good stuff on the market. I'd love for y'all to go check it out. We got a Riverboat Run shirt that I recently purchased, but that was about as far as my bank account would let me go. So we do have another Sean Taylor shirt out there. If everyone remembers the game after he passed away, they gave out the 21 towels at FedEx Field. We put that puppy on a shirt and got that on the market too. So we got some good merchandise out there. Got a Washington Brawl shirt as well. So yeah, man, y'all go check it out, WashingtonBrawl.com, and they're not going to gorge you on the price, but I'm just a broke college student, so I can't go but so far.
And with all that in mind, we actually decided we would do our first ever giveaway here at Washington Brawl. So if you want the great new Sean Taylor design that Chris was just talking about, you can do any of the following. You can retweet the announcement tweet, make a free account on brawlnetwork.com. It's literally that easy. Or just tag two friends in the same post. We'll select the winner on Sunday at random. So don't miss your chance to get this great new merch. If you're not a broke college kid like Chris, go over to the website, pick up the Brawl merch, pick up the Riverboat Ron shirt. You see the boy wearing it. Looks great. So we got to throw that little shameless plug in there. Also, for those who have reached out to us in regards to random ads popping up during the show, we apologize. It's kind of an issue we've had going on with Spreaker, and it's kind of an issue been going on with other shows around the Brawl Network, but it'll actually be corrected on this show. So now that we're done paying bills, Chris, gotta say, nice little setup you got over there. Not only do you sound a lot better, but I mean, honestly, that backdrop makes me kind of jealous since I'm in my kitchen.
Yeah, I guess you could consider myself a professional podcaster now, man. I mean, I got the Sean Taylor repping in the background with a few other. I got Mike Vick on the other side. I don't know if you can tell who that is, but got to support my Hokies. But yeah, man, I feeling good. Feel like I sound good, so hopefully it'll be a lot cleaner show for our viewers at home. I know the last couple of weeks, I think there was a little bit of audio issue, so I got important stuff to say, man, so they need to hear
it. We're no free shout-outs over here. I know we were just talking about Washington football, but I gotta ask, did you catch the new Call of Duty trailer?
I don't, man. I'm strictly Madden. Like I said, I'm broke, man. I'm trying to throw some pennies together to get Madden 21. I'm not worried about anything else right now.
Yeah, I mean, I've been grinding on Madden too, but if you didn't see it, it's based off the Cold War, and those who are not familiar with the Cold War, it lasted decades with almost like never-ending tension between the Soviet Union and the U.S. I know that some of the guys or people are listening started like, what the hell is this guy talking about, that I clicked the wrong pod, but hear me out. So, there's a lot of people saying that the trailer isn't like historically accurate and such. They got a bunch of crazy stuff going on during that time setting. So I did a little bit of Googling, and I know this is completely Washington football, not related to that in any way, shape, or form, but I did a little bit of Googling, and what I found killed me. People are talking about being historically accurate. There is one weapon that is not widely known during this time, and it isn't nuclear. Chris, do you want to take a guess as to what the weapon during this time period was?
Cold War, you said?
Cold War.
I feel like it's got to be something off the wall. I don't know, like a shank or something. They just run up and shank people.
It's
I feel like I'm so far off. It's what?
It's dolphins.
You gotta elaborate on that. I have no idea what you're talking about.
It says dolphins were trained to detect mines, guard submarines, and like find lost equipment. And I would have never thought, like, people are complaining about like all the weapons and like some of the people they had in certain timepieces, and then like the first thing I find when I Google this is that there are dolphins.
Dude, dolphins are crazy animals, man. They'll F people, man. They'll like actually have sex with people. You know that like you cannot swim with dolphins. Like, you have to watch out for that. Like, I'm dead serious. Look it up. I'm telling you.
Swim with dolphins?
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Why? Aren't they like super friendly? Like, every single time, like, I know a bunch of people that like went
friendly.
To like, why would I be surprised? Like, I've been to I've seen a bunch of people like meet them, pet them, and do all that stuff. The last thing I would expect is like they're used as like a weapon in the military. And I mean, I know that they have like the echolocation and stuff, but like, how could they detect mines and then like transfer that information like back to whoever that like sent them out? Like, it's just so many questions with that I almost didn't believe it. But
what are we even talking about, man?
It's been bothering me all day.
Well, I'm glad you got it off your chest, man.
I just hope that if they're going to be historically accurate, they need to honor the unknown heroes of the Cold War.
The Dolphins.
The Dolphins. So, anyway, today is another packed episode here at Washington Brawl because joining us is one half of the dynamic duo in the Washington Football Talk pod game, our good friend Todd from the Tae Todd Podcast. How you doing, man? Thanks for joining us.
I'm doing well. Thank y'all for having me. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and Tae today. So he's here in spirit, but he's on the other side of the country in body.
Yeah, man. We appreciate you joining the show, and we can't fault Tae for that. Hope he's having a good time.
Yeah.
But we're just gonna jump right into it, man. I mean, this last week, the fan base, Washington football team as a whole was given a complete gut punch. And I know we kind of started off the show on a funny note, but let's get a little bit more somber. Last Friday, I was actually finishing my last day at night shift. When my girlfriend actually gave me a call and told me some news that I really didn't expect to hear, to be honest with you. The news I don't think anybody expected here, and that was Washington head coach Ron Rivera, the leader of this team, mere months after taking the job, has not coached a game after the Washington Post, Quentin Dunbar, Trent Williams, Darius Geis, and all these obstacles he was given his biggest one yet. Ron Rivera was officially diagnosed with squamous cell carcinoma, which is SCC, located in a lymph node and detected from a self-care check. The form of cancer was caught during an early stage and is considered very treatable and curable, providing a good prognosis for Rivera. Ron was very adamant that he would continue to coach almost immediately after the news broke. But Chris, I'll start with you. How did the news make you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I saw it on Twitter. I think Shefty broke it. And the first thing you think about is just how bad is it, man? I mean, I guess not hearing it from Ron directly, you think that, it's not as bad as it seems. But still, every time cancer comes up, it can't be great. So I think just at first, it was just a lot of questions. And I know Shefty was kind of updating us as we went along. But it's tough, man. And you think about this day and age with COVID, you forget about football. You forget about football for a minute, and you just kind of hope and pray for the guy. You hope for health for Ron, and you hope for a speedy recovery for Ron. And football really doesn't mean much anymore. That's kind of how I felt about it at first.
Teams were kind of treating it as almost like a rallying cry, and I'll get to that in a minute. But Todd, how are you feeling, man? I mean, it's like I said, it was an absolute gut punch, man. It was something that I don't think anybody saw coming. I mean, when she told me the news, dude, I just stood there for a second. I was just like, what next, man? What next?
Yeah. It's like you can't stay away from your phone for long because something's going to be going on, and it does feel like a gut punch because as a fans, we're thinking about the football side, but when you really think about the human side, you talk about him and his wife and his kids, his family, and then the fact that he's, I'm sure, experienced fear and anger. I guess it's important to really think about that because we care about Ron Rivera, the person, not just because he's a coach here, but because he's an individual. And so I'm thankful more than anything that it sounds like it was caught by him, early enough to be able to be treated. It sounds like, compared to it being a stage 4, lung cancer, breast cancer, it's something that is not as deadly to him and that he, seems like he can beat. And so at first it felt like, as a fan, it felt like Vince Lombardi.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, right. But after kind of hearing more and then hearing him talk, it kind of settled down where it seems like he may have his days where he's off, he's not here, but he can beat it. I know Burrows talked from the DC Tweet Team podcast, said his dad had the exact same thing and beat it in like 6 weeks. And I thought that was encouraging to hear. So at first it was a huge gut punch, but then the pain from the gut punch went away. And it's, now it's just pray for him and we're sure he'll be okay.
Yeah, I know he hasn't started treatment yet, man, but he's still on the field every day.
Yeah.
And lighting into these guys, too. I mean, he has not skipped a beat, which, I know that might change further down the road once he starts treatment and stuff, but Ron is not going to let this get to him. And you can see that, and I hope the players see that. And I mean, honestly, you want him to beat and everything, but this could almost serve as just a lesson, for this team. I mean, this young team, we're trying to change the culture. You've seen Alex Smith coming back from his gruesome injury. Rivera's going to be in this fight with cancer, and pray to God he gets through it. Pray to God he comes out on the other side. And you wouldn't know looking at him, man. He's still just got the same fire in him as he has every other day.
Yeah, and our new defensive coordinator, I know it kind of dwindles in comparison. Like I said, you don't try to. It's not really about football when you bring up something like this. But on the football side of it, our new defensive coordinator, Jack Del Rio, once upon a time the head coach of the solid Oakland Raiders team, who were 12-4 before Derek Carr got injured. Yeah. He's a guy that can step in, and Ron said, if I'm not here and he's here, he's going to do everything as if I were here. He said he's going to fill in and replace him seamlessly. So, Todd, I'll ask, do you think that Del Rio would be a viable option if this did get to a point where Ron couldn't coach?
I do. Del Rio was in a similar situation with Kubai, if I'm not mistaken, in Denver, where he had his health concerns and he had to step in. So honestly, when you look at previous coaching staffs we've had, I don't really think of anyone on those staffs where I felt like if something like this happened, we would still be in good hands in terms of experience in the league and in coaching. But Del Rio's, he's head coached places, multiple places. He's had success at some places where no one else has. And so, I am confident, and I just, I hope that I don't want Del Rio to be the head coach, but I'm confident in his ability to step up and still lead the guys because he seems like he's earned the defensive guys' respect already.
I mean, I'm sure you're very well aware of his reputation on social media.
I am. Yeah, I definitely am.
Do you feel as if this would possibly fracture, or it may have already fractured his relationship with the team? I mean, you say he did earn most of the team's respect, which is true. I mean, he's a great defensive mind and cannot take that away from him. He deserves to coach in this league. But do you feel like with everything going on in our country, do you really feel like having that kind of guy being a leader of men over Rivera would kind of produce the same results, or do you feel like that would kind of tamper with that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I do feel that it would tamper some. In regards to like him on Twitter, which is just very, I prefer he not be so vocal on Twitter, regardless of his stance one way or another. But I wonder if the players are as focused or aware of that sort of thing or concerned about that sort of thing. Sometimes you ask players about stuff and they're just like, we're just here to play football. And who knows whether they're telling the truth or they're just saying it. But I think for them, it's a lot more about the person they deal with every day. Because our impression of Del Rio is Twitter. But they're with him. They talk to him. They hear from him.
I will say, I mean, you do say a lot of players are about business. And I agree with you to that extent. I mean, you got your Jonathan Allens of the world. But then you got your Malcolm Jenkins, who in the New Orleans Saints locker room, he was very vocal about his, dissatisfaction with what was going on with Drew Brees and his stance on everything. All it takes is one person in that locker room to say they feel some type of way about the way that Jack Del Rio is carrying himself on social media. We haven't heard anything about it to this point. I think that the team's handled it very professionally, but I think a lot of that has to do with Ron Rivera.
I think so.
He has a lot. He's very, very good at separating, the politics and the football, and he plays middleman and shows empathy when he needs to, and is a football coach when he needs to. So, as I said on the DC Tweet Team podcast, and you're just talking about Burrows on Saturday, I feel as this could be a situation very reminiscent of the Chuck Pagano or Bruce Arians situation a while back.
Absolutely.
And Jack Del Rio's done this before in 2013 with the entire John Fox situation, but hopefully, I think we can all say we hope this stays a plan B.
Yeah, definitely plan B.
But, like I said, with Ron Rivera, the Washington football team needs a leader now more than they ever have, because yesterday, Wednesday, August 26, 2020, my Milwaukee Bucks were slated to take on the Orlando Magic in Game 5 of their playoff series in the bubble when it was announced that the team would be protesting the game. This all led to other NBA playoff games being postponed as well. This all, of course, is in response to the tragedy that occurred in Wisconsin when Jacob Blake was shot 8 times by law enforcement in front of friends and family. Washington had been scheduled to practice at FedEx Field early on Thursday afternoon. Coach Rivera was already going to lead a discussion about the shooting with the team Thursday morning at their facility, as well as possible plans as to what the team will do during the season to support social justice. Jason Wright, who we'll get into in a little while, was also going to be a part of the discussion, as well as Malcolm Blanken, the senior director of player development. They were all going to go to board buses and drive to FedEx and have their big practice that everybody's been talking about. But as usual, the team handled, their response with class, and I don't think they could have said it any better, honestly. The team released an official statement saying that Jason Wright and I worked this afternoon. This is from Rivera. Jason Wright and I worked this afternoon to develop a response that has the right balance between the business of football and being truly thoughtful about the social injustices we witnessed with the latest incident in Wisconsin. We went to Mr. Snyder with our plan for tomorrow, and we were given his complete support and approval. Friday, we can return to football, but tomorrow will be about reflection instead. And he said a lot about this in his press conference. We'll get into a little bit later as well. But he also said, in our place of our practice at FedEx Field, the players, coaches, and football staff will meet as a football family, and we will continue our open dialogue on the issues of racism and social injustice in our country. Mr. Snyder and Jason will join us on our discussion and with the team tomorrow. Just as Mr. Snyder and I will support Jason in similar discussions, we're planning for members of the business and stadium side of the organization. We are all in this together, and as a team, we will work together to figure out ways that we can make a positive impact on our communities. So, Ron stated today that the meeting lasted about an hour and a half with the players. And like he said, everybody that was present was present. Todd, does this make you feel do you feel as if this was an appropriate response to the current events going on?
Yeah, I do. I think it's more just about, it's about showing that you're serious. When you talk about the NFL or the NBA and those particular major sports, but the NFL team, where so much of the locker room is black people or minorities, and so it affects them significantly. It absolutely does. And I think it's just about paying respect. And I think the conversations that they have, you say, well, canceling practice, what's the point, yada, yada, yada. But the more conversations that are had, the more you can start to come up with things, the more you can start to do things. You can't do something until you talk about it. So I think it was an appropriate response. It was one practice. It's not going to make or break a season. They're still going to do the practice at FedEx. They have to do it. And they'll probably do it next week because there's only one more week of training camp. So yeah. I thought it was an appropriate response. And I think having Jason and Ron making these decisions and putting out these responses is just night and day difference. It couldn't have been better timing for them to be here.
Well, I think about the perspective of Blake's family who, are sitting in hospital right now, and he's struggling, fighting for his life. And then, you look on the TV and people are just happy about sports like nothing's going on in our country. And this is a situation that is just building and building and building. And I'm nothing but supportive of athletes using their platform to express how they feel and actually try to make a change. Chris, were you satisfied with the team's response to everything going on?
Well, first and foremost, I just want to say, thoughts and prayers out to Jacob Blake and his family. Like you said, that's kind of the most important thing here. But, this is a football podcast, so, we have to talk about football. And, I think it's funny, Parker, you said, as usual, we handled it with class. This is not usual Washington football team stuff, man. This has been so far from what we're used to. This response and this statement and the moves they make has just felt like a breath of fresh air. I think, the Washington team, I think we were like one of the first three teams to cancel practice today. And, we're never in the forefront of that conversation. I feel like we're always last. You could look at every statement, every stance that has ever happened, and the Washington football team is always last in taking a stand. So, yeah, man, this is just, it's definitely not as usual, but it definitely shows you the direction they're trying to take this team. And Ron is at the forefront. I saw pictures today of, what they did, and it looked like they were in the bubble maybe. I'm not sure, but
I think in the bubble, yeah.
Yeah, I saw AP had the mic in his hand. I think I even saw Brandon Sheriff taking notes. So you can tell they care about each other. They care about their teammates, and Ron has definitely instilled that, in that locker room, and he's trying to create that culture. So, Todd, I know you said, one practice won't hurt, and I definitely agree. I think this helps, man. This unity and stuff, I feel like they're building, that team unity that they need, and that, that brotherhood. And so this is the best thing that could have happened, man. I think this team handled it with such class. Jason Wright has done a phenomenal job with his statements, and I've seen interviews with him, and it's just like I said, a breath of fresh air, man. It feels good to support a team that makes these type of decisions.
I've seen a lot of the stuff on social media. You got Chase Claypool, the rookie wide receiver, Fighting Irish wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers, shared a text that his father sent him where he said, "Chase, please don't drive fast. Don't get pulled over. Cops might kill you." And that makes some people roll their eyes, man. But that's literally the world we are living in right now. Open your phone. You're going to see people turn their head, act like they don't see it, act like they don't hear it. And, then you got the other side of the spectrum, which is Joe Burrow, who I don't think could have said things any better himself. I don't think we could have said it any better ourselves. He said, "How can you hear the pain black people are going through and dismiss it as if it is nothing? How can you hear the pain and respond with anything other than I stand with you?" And Ron Rivera's entire demeanor throughout all of this has been nothing but supportive for the entire. And he's a no bullcrap, military man. And most people like that are going to sit here and be like, "Oh, just play football, just worry about football, shut up and dribble." All those stupid stereotypes. You're going to hear all this. You still hear all these people saying that stuff loud and firm. But I really think that this has kind of been a testament to the kind of character that Ron Rivera brings as the leader of this football team. So, but Jason Wright, he actually stated that these topics are very hard to discuss, and nothing will ever change until we have these discussions, and that's why we're talking about it right now, man. You're gonna hear a lot of other pods sitting around and avoiding this and not discussing it, but I think Jason Wright was the perfect guy to bring in. Last week he was anointed the team president, becoming not only the youngest team president in the NFL, but the first African-American NFL team president ever. Chris, how did you feel about the hire when you heard about it? I'm assuming only good things.
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about it last week, and the biggest thing I took away from it, and I said this last week as well, is that it wasn't a hire in response to anything. And I think that's the best part about it. I feel like, when the Washington football team makes good moves, they get downplayed because they're in response to something. The Julie Donaldson hire, terrific hire. She's going to be great in that position. She's already been great in that position, but it came right after the sexual assault allegations, the Washington Post article, so it gets downplayed as nothing more than a PR stunt. With the Jason Wright hire, there was no need to do that, other than the fact that he was the perfect hire. He was the perfect candidate. He had the resume. He had the qualifications. And as far as I know, he's the best damn president in the entire NFL. So fantastic hire, man. And we've seen in a week, he's already made this type of impact. So,
how often do you actually hear about, team president hires and to hear them make such an immediate impact like he already has with the team, speaking to the team, in person and such. But Todd, how'd you feel about the hire?
It couldn't have been better. We're used to Bruce Allen and then Vinny Serrato and really Dan Snyder as being the presidents of the team. I mean, that hasn't been their titles necessarily, but that's what we're used to. So Jason Wright having the background in the league, being qualified, being young, which matters, being black, which matters. It was a great decision. People can say whatever they want about it. They can say it was a PR move. It doesn't matter. If it was a PR move, it was still a great hire, so exactly. it was just perfect, especially at this time. And it's interesting. I saw someone say this, but he was the first ever black team president in the NFL, and it's 2020 and we're still having first of whatever black people, and that's crazy, so that's why protests are happening. That's why boycotts are happening, because you're still having the first team president in the NFL, which is 100 years old in 2020. So I'm proud, after this organization's history, I'm proud that we're doing things like that we are the ones to have the first black team president, first quarterback to win Super Bowl.
Yeah, I thought while it was a great PR move, I just thought it was a great move, in general. And, I just, some of the fans, just most of the sentiment you're hearing is, he only got this position because of X, or he only got this position because of that. And I just... Yeah, Max Kellerman, yeah, exactly. I went after one guy.
He's going to find any way possible to demoralize the Washington football team.
Even if you don't like them, you can compliment a good move, but whatever.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I had a guy on my timeline was like, first the name change and now this, you have to wonder, what is it? Did he only get this because of, he's African-American, or did he get this because of societal, political, and financial pressures on the team? He says, I feel like this was a move to save face for Dan Snyder. And dude, I went into this guy, man. I normally don't do this stuff on social media, but I just went in this guy. I said, this guy was at a consulting firm, McKinsey & Company, 5 years as a player. So that's invaluable with player relations. He brought him in for the business side of things. Snyder clarified that himself. Like we said, first ever African-American team president. You're making history right there. It's a shame that it took that long in a predominantly African-American league, but it is what it is. He also had an MBA from the University of Chicago. I said, so let's get it straight, man. I mean, he didn't get this job because he's African-American. He got it because he is qualified, and in his interview with Michael Strahan, he absolutely killed it, man. Brought up all the names, and, he took every single question, even about the post, on the chin. And, you have these people that are rubbed the wrong way about this hire, but these are the same people that were rooting for the trash-led Bruce Allen organization every single Sunday with undying loyalty. So I am not mad that Jason Wright is our team president. If anything, it's we took out the trash and finally got someone who's progressive, good at actually dealing with the players. I feel like it's somebody we'll regularly hear from when in regards to the media. So in my opinion, if you got a problem with that hire, you're part of the problem. You can just get out because you're probably mad about the name changing anyway. So
we heard more from Jason Wright on his first day than we heard from Bruce Allen in 10 years.
Yeah, that's very true. I don't understand how people can make this out to be a PR stunt. What is it a stunt for? I mean, what did we need to correct? There was the Washington Post article was 2 weeks old. The
first one.
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll get to that later. But that was in the foreground. The George Floyd incident and the protest that had simmered down on social media, and this was just strictly a move to better the team, to better the franchise. That was it. Period. There was no type of PR move about it. This was strictly because he had the resume. He was the best candidate. There's no other question about it, man.
He won me over in 5 minutes. Like I said, that interview with Strahan, he won me over immediately. So
I don't know if they were sitting around like, hey, let's get a black guy. Everybody will love that. Like.
No, this organization has done nothing to earn my trust over the last decade, but I will say, knowing that Ron Rivera is in that building, I don't think any of the things that we're reading about in the post are happening anymore. I mean, the guy's daughter works there, man, Yeah. I mean, and like he said in his presser today, man, we just need to move forward at some point because this isn't that work environment anymore. But speaking of the working environment in Ashburn, mere days after Dan Snyder actually made his first Twitter account, the Washington Post once again came full force at the owner of the Washington football team with a new tell-all piece revealing Snyder was directly involved in the sexual misconduct in Ashburn, which will be noteworthy because when the first Washington Post article dropped, you heard a bunch of people say, well, I didn't hear Dan Snyder's name mentioned one time. Well, this entire, like I said, tell-all piece is all about Dan Snyder. We hear from Tiffany Bacon, who speaks on her incident of Snyder back in 2004 at a charity event. And we hear more about the voice of the Redskins, the notorious Larry Michael, who was accused of making special tapes for the owner at cheerleading events as well. Chris, a lot of people on Washington football team Twitter are cut down the middle. Some think this is just another move to pressure Snyder into possibly selling the team like we discussed. But what did you make of all this when the news dropped?
Well, I was looking now to see if he accepted my follow request. He still hasn't. So... says it's pending.
I think he went from 12 followers to 4, actually.
He's following people, and he has 4 followers. And I can't see who he's following. But anyways, yeah, man, that was the same question I had, too, when the initial article came out with the Washington Post was, where was Dan Snyder's name? I feel like even if he wasn't directly responsible, he still shares responsibility for this. This is his team, his organization. He hires the people. And I love the statement they put out, man. And this is, of course, sarcasm. He said, I'm not involved enough in the team. What have we been saying for years? He's too damn involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
He basically carted RG3 off the field in 2020. I mean, he's that damn involved. And he's going to say he's not involved. He didn't know what was going on. I don't buy it, man. And I'm kind of glad this post came out, or this article came out. I don't know if it was, to criminalize Dan Snyder, to put him at the forefront of this conversation because they feel like they didn't do it in the initial article. If it was, so be it, man. He definitely shares responsibility for this. He definitely shares blame. And I mean, this is something that's been ongoing for years. When was that whole cheerleading incident first reported? Wasn't that like 4 or 5 years ago? I mean, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Correct.
And it's just coming out now. I mean, this is the same thing we dealt with in the last Washington Post article dropped. It's Dan Snyder. It's on his shoulders, man. He's got to take responsibility for it. He didn't do it in the initial article, and I feel like he's got to do it now. He's handcuffed to where he has to do it now.
Clearly, the Post has got some people in that building, man, who are telling, them things that Dan does not want them to know. He went and hired an attorney. And I don't think anybody buys the whole we're conducting our own internal investigation thing. I think that was something literally internalized, given to the team just so they could answer the questions at the podium and not, have to say too much. And like I said, the team released an official statement. But more interestingly, Dan made one himself where he references the article as a hit job, which definitely is not a good look.
Right.
Todd, do you feel as if this is a quote unquote hit job or just the owner's lack of accountability for everything that's going on?
Even if it was people specifically targeting Dan Snyder, I believe all of it's true. So regardless of those people's intentions, the truth of it is what matters. It doesn't matter whether or not they're trying to get him out or they're trying to attack him. It's the truth of it, which I firmly believe that all of it is true. So I don't know whether or not it's a hit job, but that doesn't exchange. You can say it's a hit job, but if you did it, you did it. So what's the issue?
The only way it's a hit job is if the editor of the Washington Post is a Washington football team fan and they want him out. They want him to sell. Just like
you've heard the entire, Bezos wants to buy mob, right?
Yeah.
Bezos is the hitman.
He's not the hitman. I feel like this is just a conspiracy theory, man. I don't know, man. I feel like that's just taking the heat off of Dan. I mean, we didn't hear from him for so long, man. Things were so quiet with, like you guys said, Bruce was dead silent. Well, so was Dan, because there was some sketchy stuff going on in Ashburn, man. I mean, we know now. I mean, they're out of the building. We got new people in there, and they're kind of giving us a detox, making a drunk go sober almost. So, I mean, all the bad stuff's coming out now, man. And I don't know how anybody could say this is a hit job, because, I mean, not only is that, like, zero empathy to the victims and the people with these allegations, but it makes you look insensitive, just to be frank.
It does.
He's
apologizing, even if he thinks it's a hit job.
Exactly.
Did you listen to the Washington Football Talk podcast where they had on Dan's attorney, and
Yes.
he's suing about
Shock.
the defamation for like
Yeah.
a small company in India or something? Like,
Yes.
what is that
Yes.
about? Like, he's
Yeah.
so worried about the wrong thing. This is like a small company or something in India that put out an article that didn't get any real leverage or anything. It was talking about connections with Jeffrey Epstein or whatever. It's wrong, whatever. But that all fizzled. Like,
It did.
there was nothing to that. And he's suing it. Like, that's what he's worried about in this moment, is suing this small company in India about a connection to Jeffrey Epstein. It just,
And I
I
mean,
feel like his head's in the wrong direction, man.
I believe that all this stuff happened to an extent. And I do understand from Dan's standpoint where he wants to clear his name, especially if some of this stuff isn't true. I know all three of us think a lot of it is true. And, you're going to have all those people saying, well, don't believe everything you read. There's an agenda. And, the Patriots owner did this and the Colts owner did this.
Right.
And then this NBA owner did that. That does not make any of these allegations any less severe if they are true.
Absolutely not. And there's no suing the Washington Post, man. There's no getting around this. They're not gonna put anything out unless they have their sources in line.
Right.
Exactly.
So
They have the video.
he's not gonna weasel his way out of this.
Yeah. Like Todd just said, they have the video as well. And if all of this is true, Dan deserves the kitchen sink. And I don't think all of us would really be, heartbroken if he were to be forced to sell. I mean, this has been a pretty toxic relationship since the early 2000s. I think it's fair to say.
What does kitchen sink mean?
I mean, everything that you could think of, take away draft picks, make him sell. I mean, he deserves literally everything coming to him if any of this stuff is true. Because,
No, I want to hear more about your analogy with the kitchen sink. I've never heard that one. What was that?
Look, I'm saying that he would get the entire kitchen sink thrown at him, which is me essentially saying that they would hit him as hard as they possibly could.
I think I've heard that one before. I think it's like you're throwing everything, including the kitchen sink.
Thank you. God,
okay. I like that. I'm gonna start using that now.
Me and Chris grew up in the same area, and he's acting like he's never heard that terminology.
I swear, man. Victoria House Cambridge is different. So
he's been in Blacksburg too long. But,
I will say the Washington Post articles are they're like the specific details are obviously jarring and difficult to hear. But there's been so many articles about Dan Snyder's behavior just as a bad person in the organization for 20 years. So it's not like we thought he was this great guy or was okay, and then suddenly this is happening. It's like it is right in line with everything we've heard since he first bought the team. He was leaving vanilla ice cream at the defensive coordinator's desk because they said the defense was too vanilla. So, and that was in like 2004. So if he can do that, there's no reason to think all this stuff isn't true.
I just think that no one has anything to prove to anybody here but Dan Snyder. This has been so dysfunctional for so long. I don't understand why he thinks that like all these claims, like they have no place in any of this. And, I don't know which one you said it, but the Post wouldn't just, ironically post this. They have their sources. They know people. They reference everyone who doesn't want to claim anonymity. So, I mean, obviously there's some truth to this matter. And 2020, no matter what happens on the field, is a year where he has to win back over the fans. Period. Point blank. End of story. He's honestly survived already more than most thought he would, and it's going to be interesting to see how this lifetime drama unfolds throughout the season. That's for sure. So, but Todd, what do you say, man? Let's get to football.
Yeah. I guess we can talk about football.
It's about damn time.
Me and Tae recorded 2 days ago, right before the boycott of the games and right before the cancellation of the practice, right before the Washington Post. I was like, you're never safe recording.
I don't know if you heard or not. Chris wasn't on the episode that day, but me and Garrett were recording literally when the article dropped.
Really? Okay.
I was like, oh my goodness, man. How do I take in all that information? So I feel for you there, man.
Yeah, you can't win.
No, especially being a fan of this team. But we are mere weeks from the opening day matchup against Philadelphia Eagles. We have nothing to base on our expectations for this team other than what we've really seen in training camp. So I'm going to hit you guys with some hot topics fresh out of training camp, and you tell me whether or not you think this player will be a stud or he will be a dud. Pretty simple.
Nice.
You guys ready?
Let's do it.
All right, Todd, I'll start with you. Even after the signing of Sean Davis, Troy Apke has taken over as the starting safety of the Washington football team. Is 2020 the year he takes over? Stud or dud?
I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to say stud. I'm going to trust the defensive mind of Del Rio and Rivera and say they see something in there. I'm going stud. Optimism.
Okay, so he says stud. Chris?
Yeah, I'm right in line. I think I would normally say dud. I feel like Sean Davis wasn't the guy. I feel like he was kind of just a placeholder. But the fact that Troy Apke's going to beat out a guy they brought in to kind of take this job kind of makes me feel like he's balling right now. Like I feel like he's actually playing some good ball. I feel like from what I've heard from other podcasts, the guys that are actually out there, the media guys that are watching camp, they said he's flying around, man. Uh, and I know it's training camp. I know they're going against
Okay.
scout offense or whatever, or first offense, whatever. Our offense sucks. Might as well be scout offense. But I just feel like he's got a chip on his shoulder, man. I feel like this is something to prove. I feel like that's what DBs play with, right? They always play with a chip on his shoulder, and he's got more chips on his shoulder. He's got a whole stack of Pringles on his shoulder. So we'll see what he can do, man. I mean, I'm gonna go with stud. I feel like I'm with Todd on this one, being optimistic. Let's do it, stud. Let's go, Appy. Show me what you can do, boy.
So you say, well, there's the people out there every day watching and playing this and vice versa. You know who else looked really great in camp? Terrell Pryor. You know?
Yeah. You got a point.
He looked like a stud. Terrell Pryor looked like a stud. I think we can all say that.
I've never been high on Apke, but I'm just saying, let's be optimistic. And I'm not going to do this for every one of them. It's not like everyone on the team is a stud. I think we know that. But
I feel like this is the time of the year where a lot of people need to get articles out, man, and we're just kind of gassing. And don't get me wrong. Him getting in the starting lineup, especially after signing up Sean Davis, is impressive. Obviously, he's made some progression, but all the knocks on Apke are still there. Rivera even said himself, kid's got to get better with angles. He needs to be more of a sure tackler. I feel like a lot of Apke is training camp hype. And, last year, you're going to hear a lot of people say, oh, well, he had that great interception in the 49ers game. I was like, oh, the game where looked like Hurricane Lauren was outside and, Jimmy probably couldn't even plant his foot to throw the ball and Apke just caught a duck. I mean, come on, man. I mean, we've seen what Apke can bring to the table. One thing I will say about Troy Apke, and it's why I do believe that there is some basis for him being a stud this season, he has elite speed. When Deion Sanders is saying you're fast, I definitely think that says something. So
yeah, I wonder sometimes if his trouble with angles comes from his speed, where he moves too fast, gets there too soon. Maybe he needs to slow down a bit. Maybe that'll help him out some. I don't know.
I just think that it's his frame, man. I think that he's not really built like a sure tackling safety. And like I said, I love his speed. Honestly, you could throw him at slot corner if you want to get crazy with it. But like at safety, like you said, sometimes I feel like he kind of overshoots, plays and kind of isn't in the spot he needs to be just because of the speed he brings to the table. So I'm going to come back on this pod a couple months down the road, and I'm going to go ahead and say dud. I think Sean Davis, even though while you haven't heard about him, it's mainly because Sean Davis has tape on him, and they know Sean Davis can play. They know Sean Davis is a starter. I think that this training camp with Rivera is all about him kind of, seeing the cards that he's being dealt. You know what I mean? I mean, he's rotating people in, rotating people out. So you guys doubled up on me, went double stud, and I went to solo dud. So let's go to number 2. And Chris, I'll start with you. With Thaddeus Moss being waived on an injury designation and going to the IR, the talk of the town at tight end position has been your boy, former Hokie, Logan Thomas, who is developing a really solid chemistry with Dwayne Haskins. But another name that is having a great camp, one that actually outperformed Moss in pretty much any given situation, Marcus Baugh. So, Chris, I'll start with you. Stud or dud?
I feel like I would have to go stud on this just because I've heard way more positives than with a ball than I have Apke, but I'm gonna go dud, man. I mean, you just see how weak the tight end group is, even with my guy, old Logan Thomas, who I think will be a stud this year. Just putting that on record. But I don't know, man. This guy's just been really quiet. I feel like I'm not saying you have to come from a first round or second round to be a really good player. I mean, I think history will tell you that that's not always the case. But this guy may be showing highlights in camp, but I don't see it correlating to the field. I don't see this playing out like a lot of people think it will. It could be different a couple years down the road. Maybe he develops into like a really solid player. But as of this year, man, if he can't beat out Logan Thomas, who, no offense, that's my guy, but if he can't beat out Logan Thomas for the starting spot, then I'm going to go with dud.
I'm going to be 100% with you, man. I'm going to go ahead and and throw mine in there before I ask Todd. I think he's going to be a stud. I was very big on Thad Moss. As you know, I almost cried when we signed him to an undrafted free agent contract, which is kind of an overreaction. But, I mean, so did the rest of Washington football team Twitter, so I don't want to hear it. But the guy's 6'5", 250. Like I said, at camp, he's mangling guys, man. He was with Rivera in Carolina, but the most important thing to me is he is a former teammate of Dwayne Haskins at Ohio State.
That is big.
That is very big because I don't know if you guys remember this or not. You're going to have these people that are going to pin tweets and say, oh, I knew Terry McLaurin back before anybody else knew Terry McLaurin. The only thing we knew about him, fresh out the draft was, oh, he's going to be a really good special teamer. And hey, he played with Dwayne. Who's to say the same thing won't happen here with Marcus? Yeah, yeah. I feel like that's a completely fair argument. I definitely see him being a stud in 2020. Todd, what about you? Stud or dud?
Okay, so I'm going to say stud, but I need to establish the precedent because I'm not expecting big things. But stud in terms of one, I think it'd be better than Sprinkle, which is not saying much. But if Sprinkle is an example of the dud, no offense to Jeremy Sprinkle, but if he's the dud, then I think Bot will be better. And the basis of that is just from things that we've heard. But I'm just being optimistic again. I'm going to go stud. I think he'll be a decent 2 this year, blocker, and a big body for Dwayne that he's familiar with.
I think that familiarity, man, is very key. I feel like that would be like my marketing point on him. If I write any article about him, he's in an OSU uniform. Like, oh my God, it's Dwayne's teammate.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I really feel like he can come in, really find a place, especially with how slim we are at tight end, man. I feel like we talk about it every week. Logan Thomas has kind of made a name for himself. Jeremy Sprinkle will be lucky to even, make the roster at this point. And, we just have it's very slim at the position. So, but let's go to our next one. I'm just going to go ahead and say that right. J.D. McKissic, former Detroit Lion and Seattle Seahawk, has gotten a lot of reps with the ones in training camp and seems to be emerging as the pass-catching back that the team thought that they had lost in Chris Thompson. So with rumors of his explosiveness in camp, when no one is really tackling him, honestly, with guys like Bryce Love and Antonio Gibson out there, will J.D. be a stud or a dud in 2020, Chris?
I'm going to go with dud. I really didn't think there was probably a really great opportunity for him to even make this team. And with Geis's unfortunate departure, I feel like he definitely will make the team now. But I'm still going dud because I just feel like he's not going to have the snaps, man. You know that AP is going to get the majority of power running snaps. At least I feel like. I think Love will be your number 2. And Antonio Gibson is going to be your weapon, your receiving back. So I feel like any type of play call where you have a running back in motion who catches a short pass, screen stuff, like that's going to be Love or Gibson. That's not going to be McKissic. McKissic is going to find his snaps in there somewhere through the mix. They're going to find a way to get him involved, but I don't think there's going to be enough snaps to get him really going, and that's why I'm going to peg him for a dud this year.
My biggest thing with Gibson, though, is that he is practicing with the receivers more than the running backs at this point. So
Scott Turner has said he's going to draw up plays for him, though, and that's going to be in the backfield. That's going to be in the slot. Every short pass play I think you would have with a back, that's going to go to Gibson, whichever way it might be. If he's lined up in the slot, if he's in the backfield, whatever way, I think any type of play call they would have for a running back catching the ball, that's going to be Antonio Gibson catching it.
I mean, that's certainly what I hope. I mean, he's on a very cheap deal. I feel like McKissic was a guy brought in just because, there's veteran leadership possibly, amongst that committee of running backs. And he's certainly getting a lot of looks. And, he's made some plays in Detroit. He's made some plays in Seattle. I'm not taking that away from him. But if Gibson's what you think he is, it kind of takes away from JD a little bit in his role in the offense. How do you feel, Todd? Stud or dud?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go dud because I can't say stud every time. And I'm going dud because I'm going long term, and it's because of Gibson. I think that McKissic will get his ops early on as third down. I think more so that's his expertise, more so because he's the veteran. But as Gibson gets the ball, shows what he can do with it, they're going to realize they have to get him the ball. And I think on third downs, it'll largely come down to Gibson in terms of pass blocking. Can he be your third down block? Can you trust him to pass block? If he proves he can do that, then I think he's going to be your guy that you want in third downs as an option to block or catch the ball. So I think McKissic's going to have his 1 year here, and I think towards the second half of the season, you're going to see less of him and more of the young guy. So dud. Sorry.
Oh, no, I love that perspective. I think the long-term thing is honestly where I was going at with it as well. Because, I mean, if they're as high on Gibson as they say they are and they plan on getting him involved in the offense as much as they say they're going to, then, I mean, McKissic just doesn't have any long-term value here. So, I mean, like I said, by the end of the season, if Gibson balls out, he takes McKissic's reps at the end of the day. And and McKissic had burned the world down in Detroit, burned the world down in Seattle, which he did make some good plays, mind you, with Russell Wilson. All in all, he only had 402 rushing yards, and I think barely 500 receiving yards as well. So, I mean, like I said, it's not like he's a guy that, everybody was kind of clamoring for. He almost felt like a camp body at the signing. I know Peyton Barber is the epitome of a camp body. And, I mean, he's probably the biggest dud in the whole committee, if we're being honest with ourselves, even with Darius Geis' exodus. But as far as JD's concerned, I like where Ty went with that one. He said dud just based off the long-term value. And I'm going to go the same. I think I'm going to go dud. I think that's the best possible answer, honestly. So, but
he's not going to like us.
So let's get to the next one. With the Kelvin Harmon injury and the release of Cody Latimer, the Washington football team will be relying heavily on a young core of guys at wide receiver for the second year in a row. We already know Terry is going to be Terry. I mean, look at the team's Instagram. He's destroying people. One of them being Greg Stroman. Shout out to the Hokies.
Hey, he's like leading the team in picks and training camp, so I don't want to hear that.
Oh, that's amazing. So cool. But a certain rookie is garnering a lot of hype, and that is one Antonio Gandy Golden. Do you guys feel like the rookie will step up to the equation or be a dud in 2020? I know this is probably going to be the second toughest question. So, Chris, I'll start with you again.
If AGG is a dud, we've got some serious problems on our hand because he's supposed to be number 2. He's supposed to be the Robin to Terry McLaurin's Batman. So if he's a dud, we got some real problems on our hand. I feel like Dwayne might be out of the picture if AGG doesn't produce. So AGG's got to be a stud, man. He's got to be a stud this year. I think he will be. He's tall, lanky. He's definitely a go-getter. He goes up and gets the ball every time. 50-50 balls he's going to come down with. From what I've seen, he's got outstanding hands. I mean, just everything away from him. I mean, his catch radius is insane. I will say, to his fault, you can talk the small school Liberty aspect. You can talk the COVID, less reps, less, no OTAs, no preseason games, all that. But I think even with that, we'll see him grow throughout the season into a real stud by the middle of the season and going forward.
AGG was a guy that you and I looked at a lot, and some people roll their eyes when they heard a lot of people say this, but one of AGG's pro comps was actually Calvin Johnson, just based off of his catch radius. I mean, the guy's just a freak, man. Like I said, I've been to a Liberty game before. You heard, I remember when we did our mock back at Capitol Hill, Chris, I was like, AGG, I don't care what round it's in, AGG. And you and I both have been very high on him. And some of it has to do with him being a local kid. And yes, he did have some mediocre competition at Liberty, but it's just the raw just athleticism that he possesses. You hear all these people saying, oh, well, he can solve a Rubik's Cube in such and such seconds. I'm like, dude, the guy's 6 foot, whatever, 200 plus pounds, and he's a freak. Like he is a ball player, man. No matter where he went, he was going to have a chance to be in that starting lineup. And I heard you say, Chris, before I get to Todd, I got to say this real quick. You say that they want AGG to be the Batman to Terry's Robin. What exactly?
Opposite.
I'm sorry, the Robin is Batman, if you will. Let me correct myself. What does that make Steven Sims?
The Joker? I don't know. Like, he's just a badass, man.
I feel like he's the forgotten man in all of this. I really do.
I mean, I spent today watching some Steven Sim highlights, and dude, you talk about like raw athleticism. That dude has it. He's really going to show out this year in his second year. He's going to mature a little bit, understand the playbook better. I think I hate that Kelvin Harmon had his injury, but that's going to open up everybody to more catches, more opportunities. So Sims is going to show out this year, man. I think we have a really solid receiving core. We're just going to have to see how it plays out. But I still say AGG is going to be the Robin, Terry's Batman, and we'll say Sims is Joker.
Yeah, you didn't botch the DC analogy like I did, so bravo to you, sir. But I had to ask that. So let's go to Todd. AGG 2020, stud or dud?
Okay, so my love for him is well documented. I don't know if y'all are aware of that, but it's well documented. One of my best friends in the world, who's sitting in my living room right now, played with him at Liberty, and so that's where that's where our relationship began. Mine and AGG's. It was more of a one-way relationship, but that was back in 2017, and since then I've been following him, and so I've been wanting us to draft him. I feel like there's a chance. He's small school local, and then when we did draft him, that was probably the closest I've been in terms of excitement since RG3, which is crazy. But it is what it is. It is what it is. Yeah, just because how you really want them to draft somebody, and then they do. So I'm calling stud 100%. I have to call stud, okay? I know he's been quiet in camp, but, he's not a Terry. He may need a little more time. Like Chris said, I think as the season goes on, he'll get his opportunities. I think he's going to have that moment during the season, that highlight play where it's like, whoa, AGG put himself on the map. And then he did play at Liberty, small school. But when you look at his stats, he did what you would want him to do at a small school. He dominated. He had 3,700 yards. He had over 230 catches, 32 touchdowns. And when you compare that to guys drafted in the 4th round going back 5 years, his averages are like almost double. So regardless, I don't care. Even if he's a dud, I'd say he's a stud. But he's going to be a stud.
I'm glad we all have that bias in common. We're all local guys. We all love AGG.
Right,
That's just a really cool story about your roommate, to be honest. Is there anything that he knows about AGG that maybe you could share? Anything, any stories you have with AGG?
I've been planning to have him come on the show for a little while to kind of tell us some stories, and so I think that's gonna happen. He's told me some stories, but I don't know if I'm allowed to share those stories, so that's the only reason I'm not sharing them. Some stuff.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, some stuff in the meeting rooms, and so
cheated on the Rubik's Cube.
Yeah, right, exactly. But he obviously he is who he presents himself to be. He's like a good guy. He's a cool guy. He's chill. He takes his stuff seriously. But I'm definitely going to have him come on and share some stories that he's allowed to share at some point.
Well, you guys heard it here first. Low-key leaked his plans. Go and check out the Tae Todd Podcast when AGG joins the show. I'll definitely check that one out.
Yeah, I'll check that one out too.
Very well documented. We all have a man crush on AGG, so you guys already know. I'm gonna say stud. I mean, the guy's frame. He's just a playmaker, man. And like Todd says, there's gonna be a moment this year where he is lined up on a second string corner. Not saying he can't do it to a first string corner, but he is going to get a mismatch and he's going to be on SportsCenter the next day.
Yes, absolutely.
That's just how it's going to go. He's not only a special person, he's just a special athlete. And I'm really glad that, NFL fans around the country kind of see what we've all been talking about this entire time. So, hey, man, when it comes to stud or dud, I saved the hardest one for last, of course. Lastly, on stud or dud, Todd, I'll start with you. I'll put all the pressure on you. In 2020, stud or dud, Dwayne Haskins.
I knew it. I knew it. Okay, so I'm gonna just come right out and say stud. Okay, assuming health, I'm gonna say stud, and I don't mean top 10 necessarily, but I mean
top 15.
I mean top 15. I mean yes. I mean him showing us.
Here. Come on, give them to me.
Okay. I'm gonna go top 15. I'll go top 15. And I say that because I really do think that the coaches are going to put him in a situation to succeed and that he has changed a lot from his rookie year. And so short of him getting hurt, I think he will perform at a level where that he can lead this team for a number of years. And then I think next year he'll have to prove it again. I think it'll be that sort of thing. It won't be Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson. It'll be like he did it, now do it again. But I'm calling stud. That's Dwayne is my guy. But I'm not biased, though. I'm going stud.
All right. And those are all fair arguments. You're going to have a lot of people looking at last season and looking at possibly getting a higher draft selection and saying, look, if Haskins doesn't work out, it was tank for Tua. Now it's tank for Trevor. You're going to, those conversations are going to be happening. I talked last week about how possibly, before Alex Smith was cleared, I was anticipating him to kind of come back around week 8 if Dwayne was struggling. I mean, this is just a conversation that people need to have. I mean, I do feel like in the last 4 to 5 weeks, Dwayne was on an upswing. I mean, if you watch any of those games, he played amazing. And that isn't just the Washington football team and fan and me talking. I mean, he looked special out there. Against the Giants, he looked great. Against the Eagles, he looked great. He didn't really look that bad against Buffalo, who's a playoff team. And he takes care of the ball. He doesn't try to make things happen that aren't there. And honestly, the shift of Gruden out of the building, in my opinion, was extremely vital in Haskins' development. Kind of sad we don't have Kevin O'Connell around anymore, but if Scott Turner is as advertised, then I feel like it's going to do nothing but pay dividends for Dwayne. So, Todd, you're going stud. Chris, do you dare to dud?
I like that. Sounds like a new T-shirt. No, I mean, I've said this before. I think with Ron Rivera in the building, I think every player on the team gets somewhat better than they were under Jay Gruden. So I already say that Dwayne Haskins is going to be better than his rookie year. Then you look at his growth from week 8, 9 that he came in. I'm not even sure which week it was.
Yeah,
to the last game he was in. You saw that growth. That was basically by himself. Bill Callahan could give a damn less if Dwayne Haskins was throwing the ball. He was run, run, run. So I feel like Dwayne Haskins almost matured and grew by himself. Now it's a whole new playbook. And again, we can say COVID, new coach, he might not get the system. I've heard he's doing really well in the system. Supposedly the offensive playbook is way simpler than under Jay Gruden. I think they said they went to like a number system instead of a word system, so you can catch on easier. So I think if Dwayne understands the playbook and he understands his reads, which he will coming into his second year, you already saw that growth. I think he's top 10, man. And I'm not saying that as a overly optimistic Washington football team fan. I'm saying that because you saw what he did at Ohio State. Like he didn't play, and then all of a sudden when he played, 50 touchdowns, 70% completion percentage. I mean, the guy shows tremendous growth between years, and now he has such a better head coach and a, let's say, equivalent offensive coordinator. And I would go as far as saying, I don't know that well, but better quarterbacks coach, better receivers coach, better O-line coach. Everything I feel like in the building is better. And we obviously know he's in better shape. And I feel like he's going to definitely use that to his advantage. I felt like he moved around in the pocket pretty good last year, and I feel like that's going to get way better. So, dude, I've got my radar up for Dwayne Haskins. I think it's going to be a big year for him, and I'm going all in on stud.
I have to do nothing but agree with you guys. I just want to see if one of you would honestly get crazy and say something controversial, maybe a hot take, if you will. But no one dared to dud. Maybe next time, you know. But one thing about Ohio State, I think Haskins was kind of in the wrong. He was the right player in the wrong year in the Heisman race, because I just watching him back at Ohio State and just watching him last year. Like you said, Callahan was very run heavy, very run oriented. Like I said, he was trying to run the clock out on the rest of the season pretty much. So there were so many moments where I was just like, dude, let Dwayne rip it, man. Let him throw the ball. It can get there. Accuracy, you can work on that. He gets his head in the playbook. You heard all those stupid rumors when it was really just Jay being like, oh, you can't look at it. Stop. You can't look at it. I don't like you. I mean, that was the majority of what was going on with Jay and Dwayne. And like you guys said, once Dwayne stepped in and Jay wasn't there anymore and he had coaches actually working with him, he progressed every single week. I'm definitely leaning more in Todd's direction with the whole top 15 thing. I think top 10 is definitely something I'm definitely gonna have to clip you saying and use it against you maybe at a later date.
Every year we have a quarterback that no one would think would jump as far as they did. I think last year you could say it was possibly like Josh Allen. Dwayne Haskins is going to be that guy this year. He's going to jump on everyone's board further than anyone would have imagined on August 27th today.
Well, something that
Goff a couple years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Goff's another guy.
Which he's still trash, but he did have a good year. So,
oh my God, I definitely feel like that there's an argument there, and I do feel like Dwayne. I'll go ahead on record and say this: Dwayne will have a better season this year for sure. 7 touchdowns, 7 picks. He didn't play a full 16 games. He didn't have a coaching staff that would believe in him. And in my opinion, context is key, especially in that situation. And I think that's why as evolved as he may be, a little bit too much sometimes. Dan Snyder knows that, and that's why he kind of told Ron going in is one of the only things that he kind of had to just deal with was Dwayne is the guy. But here's the thing, Ron makes Dwayne earn it every single day. Dwayne actually threw a interception to Landon in practice a couple of days ago, and it was awful. And you just saw Ron lay into him, man. I mean, he's not talking to him like, he's the precious chosen one that Dan chose. He talked to him like, look, you're our quarterback. I need you to make better decisions than that. So I really feel like Ron Rivera is going to make the best out of Dwayne Haskins and vice versa. And I definitely see him being a stud in 2020. And I feel like even though we're a Washington football team podcast, you're going to hear everybody say that. But I firmly do believe that. I remember, honestly, Dwayne did not have a lot of believers going into this 2019 season. I went to training camp. And I swear, dude, I'm not even kidding. I was the only person in the fan store in Richmond that actually bought his jersey. Like, they said, oh, you're actually the first person to buy one. And I'm like, man, that's a first-round draft pick, 15th overall, played for Ohio State, Heisman finalist, and there was just no hype surrounding him. But like you guys said, this offseason, he's absolutely worked his ass off, gotten in great shape, and I didn't really think his mobility was an issue. That's not really something I really thought was a knock on Dwayne Haskins. So I think we're all in agreement to end stud or dud that Dwayne Haskins in 2020 will certainly be a stud. Todd, thank you so much for stopping by, man. Tae, if you're listening, we hope you're having a blast on vacation, man. We're big fans of the show. So tell everybody where they can find you guys.
Tae Todd Podcast. That's Twitter. Tae Todd, and then on Google or Apple or all of them, Spotify, it's just Tae Todd Podcast. Once you get to TAE, we should have popped up by then. So, yeah.
That's big, man. 3 letters and you're up there. I like that.
I think so.
Oh,
yeah, it was a marketing strategical decision. It wasn't, but it's worked out.
He's got all the algorithms on pack.
Right.
Something I gotta say, and we've gone this long without saying it, but I just gotta put it in there. This is a Pro Redwolves podcast interviewing another Pro Redwolves podcast.
Absolutely. I was thinking about that earlier. 100%. We are completely in agreement. Pro Redwolves all the way. And I mean, that's probably why we're hitting it off so great and have such great chemistry.
I just gotta say, man, all the shows I've been on over the last couple months, except ever since the names changed, it's just like, if you're not Red Wolves or you're not Warriors, it's like there's no common ground, you know? I was on the DC tweet. It's almost become political at this point. I'm not It has. I mean, you've got these older tenured fans who are just like, well, it has to be Warriors because X, Y, and Z, because of flyovers, and Ron Rivera's a military man. I was like, yeah, Ron Rivera's a military man, but I mean, he's also supporting Black Lives Matter and doing a lot of progressive things that not most military men would honestly do. And I mean, we already have flyovers at games. Like, what was the Washington Redskins name doing? Excuse me, that's not exactly a nice thing to say right now. But what was that name, that moniker, all of that? What was that doing to honor our troops?
I agree completely. I mean, obviously, we all respect and honor the military.
Of course.
But that doesn't mean that our name has to specifically chosen for the sole purpose of honoring the military.
No,
I completely agree.
And Ron Rivera is just the coach.
He's just the coach.
And we're hoping this name lasts 100 years. And I'm sorry, but Rivera's not going to be here in 100 years.
That's what. Exactly. I was listening to that the mashup pod and heard you going with Burrows and Kyle a bit, and it was obviously very diplomatic.
They're like, so you like Red Wolves, huh? I was like, yeah. I'm not for anything, but
we just like. I mean. Yeah, I think we're balanced. We prefer Red Wolves, but we're okay with just something good.
Yes.
But I understand Red Wolves more than Warriors. Warriors, I like Red Wolves better. And I don't think
anybody can like Warriors over Red Wolves. I mean, it's just so bland. It's so generic. And, since we're talking about our opinions, let's just air them out there, right? When it comes to the Warriors, all I think about is Kevin Durant. That's all I think about. I think about KD, I think about Clay, I think about the Splash Brothers, I think about the dynasty in Golden State, and I just think of it as a super generic arena football name. And, you're hearing a lot of people say, well, Red Wolves, that sounds like a JUCO college. It's so stupid. I'm like, well, I mean, and Warriors sounds any better? That just sounds like a generic name given to a football team like in some corny sports movie,
Yeah, seriously. Warriors is like a super common like high school, middle school. Like it's a very, very common, not professional sport league name.
It's the AAU team that gets beat down every week.
Well, that makes more sense now, And then there's oh my God. And here's my favorite one of them all. I know you guys heard Kyle talking about this. He's not the only one who feels this way though. So, I mean, this isn't a knock against him, but one you hear very often, well, the howling is stupid. It's just going to get annoying after a while. I'm like, guys, if we've even got fans at FedEx, I'll be happy.
Right.
If they want to howl, I'll be happy. If they're excited about this team, I will be happy. Isn't what we want right now, 2020, unity?
Yeah. Definitely.
I mean, also, do people even realize how badass of a marketing campaign you can do for Red Wolves?
Yeah.
And it's something else. Before I finish my little rant I got going on, not only that, the players love it. It's everywhere. Landon Collins could be like, at Huddle House, throw a wolf emoji on there for no reason. They love it. They want it to be Red Wolves. It's been very vocal. It seems like the only people that are pro Red that are pro Warriors here are the ones that are just not really embracing Red Wolves. And like I said, I'm cool with it. I'm not going to be mad if it's not Red Wolves. I just want it to be something cool. And quite frankly, the Warriors mob is what we're going to call them. They have a strong argument already. I mean, the logo, if it's going to be Warriors, they've already got their logo,
Right.
I mean, with that being said, how do you feel about the Washington football team possibly staying the name?
I'm going to answer that. I do quickly want to say 2 follow-up things on your rant, which I enjoyed. It was great.
Keep going.
With Warriors, when you type in warriors.com, the first thing that pops up is Golden State. Like that's just something to consider, right? They are the Warriors, and there is no crossover between NBA and NFL, and those are the 2 biggest sports leagues. There's those, and then when you talk about Redwolves or even Wolves or just something like that, I mean, I've said this. There's a lot to consider. There's what the older fans want, what the younger fans want. There's marketing. There's trademarking. There's deals. But one thing that's very, very critical when you're picking a name, especially nowadays, is that it has to be cool. It's just like it has to be cool. It has to be cool for the fans now. It has to be cool for the fans that will come. It has to be cool for people who aren't fans, just for the NFL world. It has to be cool. And so if you're talking about Wolves, everyone loves Wolves. Wolves are cool. They're awesome.
Yeah.
So you can go the regular route and say we're the worst. Okay, all right, whatever. Or you can go Wolves or Red Wolves. And then suddenly it's like, okay, I don't even like y'all, but that's a cool name. That's a cool logo.
Exactly.
That's cool. That's pretty sick. And I think that's a bigger deal than people think. I think people say, well, it doesn't have to be cool. The reality is Redskins was not a cool name. It was just 100 years old. Nowadays, you wouldn't pick a name, Redskins. That's not a cool name. But you got to think forward. You got to think about the future. You want the 10 and 15-year-olds nowadays who aren't fans yet to be able to say, that's a cool name. I like that logo. I like that team. I'm going to start watching them. That's how you make money. That's how you have fans in the stadium. Yeah.
Somebody hire Todd right now, man.
Chris said it best. Ron Rivera's not going to be in 100 years. Why are we trying to appease these people that had the glory days in the 80s? We're not those Redskins anymore.
100%.
We're a dumpster fire. You know, we love our dumpster fire. It's our dumpster fire.
Yeah.
But with that being said, things have to change. You have a new generation coming in. And whatever that new generation wants, you put a bow on it and give it to them, okay?
Yeah.
That's just how I feel, And like I said, Chris said it best. Rivera's not going to be in 100 years. Neither half of these fans that are mad about the Warriors not even being the name.
Yeah.
The guys who are against the howling are the guys who stay sober at the football game. Because I promise you, in about 3 years in, man, that howling is going to be dope as hell.
I think it really is. I think it is. It's going to be so silly and great at the same time. It's just going to be, it'll be a fun thing to be able to do. I don't know. It won't bother me. And I don't even drink. And it won't even bother me. I will be howling and looking silly at the TV.
I mean, when's the last time fans ever got that excited since 2012?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's something
cool.
I mean, and like you said, I think the most important thing is that it looks good and it sounds good. Because, I mean, you don't want to get around draft time next year and they're like, welcome to the Metropolitans or whatever these stupid names are they're sharing on Facebook.
The Rexes.
The Rhinos, all of those. Yeah. So, I mean, to me, it's down to the Warriors and the Redwolves, and it's nice to have a very educated pro Redwolves man like yourself.
Yeah, this is the last thing I'll say is I go to church and it's a very divided Redskins, Washington, and Cowboys. It's very, very divided. And then we before coronavirus, we'd have Sunday morning, we'd have Sunday evening. So we would always have to face each other after games have been played, after games have been won and lost. And the thought of after, us winning, of being able to howl, at my pastor and my friends and whoever may be, just walk around the sanctuary howling. I love the idea of that. And I love it because it'll annoy them. And it'll be great.
I'm not even gonna lie to you, bro. If we got skunked by Dallas and I had to show up to church, I'm taking that collection plate and I'm just I'm throwing it straight at somebody. Get it out of my face.
I can only
fan for that.
Howling at his pastor in between church services. I can only imagine Todd howling at his pastor in between church services. That's amazing.
Oh yeah. That would be Twitter worthy.
On that point alone, it's got to be the name.
Absolutely.
You have to make it just so you can howl at your pastor.
We are being kind of selfish here, right? We're being kind of selfish. If you look at our logo, the Brawl logo, we got like a claw going through it. Redwolves Brawl is literally like the most badass situation imaginable for us. So I mean, yeah, we're kind of selfish, but it's good to see somebody come on here that isn't me or Chris or Garrett to say that that is the name of the future. That is the name of the fans that are actually going to matter in a decade. So that's definitely refreshing to hear. We're now done gushing about that. So.
I know. Since we hadn't talked about it, we had to just air it out. So I'm glad we did that.
Absolutely, man. Well, can't wait to have you on again, man. Hopefully it's during football unless some more false positives ruin that. Todd, you have a great night, man.
Yeah, you too. Thank you for having me.
That will be all for this week's episode of the Washington Brawl podcast. So before you go, subscribe, and if you haven't already, if you have already subscribed, unsubscribe and subscribe again. Because we're shameless over here. Leave us a 5-star review, like and share this when it drops. Those who do, we love you. We actually just hit 1,100 followers recently, so thank you guys so much. Also, I'm sure a lot of you are going to this weekend, are going to be out this weekend before Lauren hits. So when you settle down, head over to www.brawlnetwork.com. Check out our latest articles by our writers Dave Overman and Graham Smith. Also, as you will see by the time you listen to this episode, we are starting our official Washington Brawl Madden Game of the Week series with the Brawl Network on the Brawl Network's official Twitch channel, where yours truly will take on complete strangers or maybe some people you know as the Washington football team in Madden 21 since they finally actually got the helmets right. So make sure you guys check that out too. So Washington Brawl is now available on YouTube as well. I kind of botched that last week. But we're now part of the Brawl Network's official playlist on their YouTube channel. That will also be available when this drops. Lastly, make sure you give us a follow on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Washington Brawl. This has been the Washington Brawl podcast presented to you by the Brawl Network. Peace.